Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Tyree from On the Hot Podcast. Today, I have some bonus content for you guys. The bonus content we'll be covering today will be in the sport of boxing. In today's bonus segment, I'll be sharing my thoughts on Canelo Alvarez officially leaving the PBC. So the news broke and it's been circulating all over combat sports today, especially in the sport of boxing, that Canelo Alvarez has decided to part ways with the PBC. According to Mike Coppinger, who is a great boxing source that is hired by ESPN, Canelo Alvarez and the PBC have mutually agreed to part ways. Canelo Alvarez has left the PBC with 2 fights left remaining on his PBC deal. If you guys didn't know, Canelo Alvarez actually signed this PBC deal, this multi-fight PBC deal, back in the summer of 2023 in June. This is the reason why we got Canelo Alvarez versus Jermell Charlo, and we were supposed to get a long list of fights that Canelo Alvarez was supposed to be a part of, fighting-wise, with the PBC. He still had 2 fights left. We were supposed to get a fight with the Cinco de Mayo weekend for Canelo Alvarez with the PBC, and in September, but things have changed, and Al Haymon and Canelo Alvarez have officially parted ways. Now, we are seeing that Eddie Hearns is trying his best to sign Canelo Alvarez back to Matchroom, back to the zone. And right now, the rumors, this whole entire situation is so tricky to follow because, yes, we know Canelo has parted ways, but over the last few weeks, we've been trying to figure out who is Canelo Alvarez actually going to fight. And looking at the date I'm recording this video, it's February 26th of 2024. Canelo Alvarez is getting back in the ring for Cinco de Mayo weekend, May 4th, on a Saturday night. We're 2 months away, realistically, from Canelo Alvarez getting back in the ring. We still have no mapped out opponent for Canelo Alvarez. All the names that we were supposed to get this whole entire time, we were supposed to get Terrence Crawford was in the mix. Jermall Charlo was in the mix. David Benavidez was in the mix. We got Jaime Molina in the mix. We got so many people in the mix. May 4th will be here before you know it. The fight still needs, as big of a star Canelo Alvarez is, he's the face of boxing. This fight still needs to be properly advertised. This fight still needs to be properly advertised for a big-time fight in Vegas. I really don't know what is going on with Canelo Alvarez, but this is a sticky situation because what was the interview? It was an interview today. The news broke that Canelo Alvarez wants Jaime Molina now for May 4th, a Mexican fighter, that he said he was not interested in fighting Mexican fighters, but I digress. But the thing about this is Canelo Alvarez is saying he wants to fight Jaime Molina. Today, in an interview, Oscar De La Hoya, Jaime Molina's manager, was asked, is he going to fight Canelo Alvarez May 4th? And Oscar De La Hoya flat out said, off the top of his head, no, I don't see this fight happening between Canelo and Jaime Molina. So what is really in the cards for Canelo Alvarez May 4th? It's going to be tricky to see what happens next. But my thoughts on Canelo Alvarez leaving the PBC, truly, man, these are my thoughts. I'm truly disappointed that Canelo Alvarez left the PBC and him and Al Haymon came to terms of this going their own separate ways. But I just felt like Canelo Alvarez left a big fight on the table. Diehard boxing fans like myself are dying to see the fight. Canelo Alvarez versus David Benavidez, hands down, other than Gervonta Davis and Devin Haney, if they fight in 2024, would be the biggest fight that boxing has to offer. You could have got David Benavidez versus Canelo Alvarez on Cinco de Mayo weekend that would have easily did 100 million pay-per-view buys. And instead, Canelo Alvarez was interested in fighting Jermall Charlo. And because he couldn't get the Jermall Charlo fight, that is one of the reasons why he left PBC and decided to part ways with Al Haymon and the PBC. But to me, Canelo Alvarez is proving that I think if he got in the ring with David Benavidez, if he actually fought David Benavidez and gave the boxing fans what they wanted to see, it could have really truly proved if Canelo Alvarez is still that elite caliber fighter that we all know that he once was once upon a time ago. But as age caught up to Canelo Alvarez, his body, his mileage catching up to him, he's been in a lot of epic wars in his illustrious boxing career. But the reason why I feel like Canelo Alvarez is not pursuing a fight with David Benavidez is because after his loss that he suffered to Dimitri Bivol on Cinco de Mayo weekend in 2022, have we really seen Canelo Alvarez take any risk in the sport of boxing? I mean, let's go over his last 3 fights after the Bivol loss. He fought Triple G, who was 40 years old in the trilogy, and took his foot off the gas pedal. Really could have stopped Triple G in the trilogy, but coasted to a victory and let Triple G actually get back into the fight. Then you look at the fight that he had last Cinco de Mayo weekend against John Ryder. He broke John Ryder's nose after breaking his nose in the 5th round of that fight. He couldn't even put away John Ryder, who was fighting with a broken nose, and gave him a lot of problems in that fight. Then you look at his last fight, his last outing against Jermell Charlo. You fought Jermell Charlo, who's just there for a damn payday, did not even try, and you brought him up from 2 weight classes up to fight you. So what risk has Canelo Alvarez really taken since the Dimitri Bivol loss? When is the last time we can really say Canelo Alvarez has looked like an elite fighter? The last time I could really say Canelo Alvarez looked like an elite fighter was against Caleb Plant in late 2021. This is the reason why Canelo Alvarez bailed on PBC. I don't want to hear that the money is the issue. His guaranteed money was off the chain to begin with. But the man his net worth is worth $275 million. So why is a dollar bill stressing out Canelo Alvarez? I thought Canelo Alvarez was a legacy fighter this whole entire time in his boxing career. But I digress. But I just feel like this was a cop me out move, if you really want my honest opinion, because Terrence Crawford, even though Terrence Crawford is moving up, would have had to move up 3 weight classes. Terrence Crawford, in a lot of people's eyes, including myself, is pound for pound the best fighter in the sport of boxing today. That would have been a credible win, whether you like it or not, if he beat Terrence Crawford. And David Benavidez has done everything in his power to earn a title shot against Canelo Alvarez. He has been the mandatory for the WBC title. He did the dirty work in the division for the last few years, especially last year, beating Caleb Plant and Demetrius Andre. No more excuses for Canelo Alvarez. This was a cop me out move. Money was not the issue here. But now, another question I thought of for this segment is the PBC, let's say if Canelo Alvarez was upset that he didn't get his money. And I believe it because he was supposed to get I believe the number they were saying was $55 million for this fight that he was supposed to have for May 4th. Now, for a promoter, guaranteed money, no matter the pay-per-view sales, no matter what's going on, $55 million is a lot to give to a fighter guaranteed up front. So, is the PBC going broke? I don't believe that PBC is going broke, but again, if Al Heyman and Canelo Alvarez did come to an agreement last June saying that Canelo Alvarez was supposed to get this money, and if Al Heyman cannot afford a Canelo Alvarez versus a David Benavidez fight, or he couldn't even afford a Canelo Alvarez versus Jermall Charlo fight, the PBC is truly in trouble. Especially after signing a new deal with Amazon Prime, if they can't afford that fight. But if you can't afford a Canelo Alvarez David Benavidez fight, this is why it's so tricky, because if you actually think about it, if you can't afford that, how can you really afford a Gervonta Davis versus Devin Haney fight in the future? Or how could you possibly afford a Terrence Crawford and Jerron Boots Ennis fight in the future? PBC is off to a rough start in 2024. And let me tell you why. Even though they have a new Amazon Prime deal, and they're supposed to make their debut in late March, they are off to a rough start because you just lost the face of boxing at Canelo Alvarez. And Terrence Crawford is now a free agent. Stars are leaving left and right. And this is not a good start for PBC, who needs to have an outstanding, great impression with Amazon Prime and their partnership for the first year. So it's going to be interesting to see what the PBC does next. It's going to be interesting to see how the landscape of boxing plays out, because this shook up the whole entire landscape of boxing. So if I was a betting man, Canelo Alvarez is going to be back with Eddie Hearn under his wing, and he probably will fight Jaime Munguia May 4th or in September. But this is not what boxing fans wanted to see. But that is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is your host, Thomas Tyree, signing off. And I'll see you guys on next week's episode.